I heard laughter in my own living room. The kind of laughter that doesn't belong in a home built with love, but in one about to be stolen. I followed the sound, and there she was, my own daughter standing in the center of my mansion, showing it off to a stranger like she already owned it. "I'm selling it, Mom," she said, smiling. "After all, your life is almost over." She said it so easily, as if I were a piece of old furniture she could auction off. I looked at her, calm, too calm, and whispered, "And you have just shortened your own future." The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was war. The marble floors that once carried her laughter became her courtroom. That day, my daughter didn't just cross a line, she built a wall she'll never climb back over. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you raised, hit like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Because this isn't just a story about betrayal, it's about the moment a mother stopped being a victim. Do you know what it's like to stand in your own home and feel like an intruder? To watch your own flesh and blood walk through rooms you built with your tears and sweat, pointing out features to a stranger as if you're already dead? There I was, returning from the Patterson Foundation Charity Gala, the same gala where I'd just donated $50,000 to help underprivileged children. Still wearing my pearls, my heels clicking against the marble floor that my husband and I had chosen together 30 years ago. Every step echoed through the halls that once rang with birthday songs and Christmas morning squeals. But this laughter, this wasn't joy. This was something else entirely. I followed the sound through the double doors of our grand hall, and there she stood, my daughter, my flesh and blood, the little girl I'd rocked to sleep in these very rooms, confidently giving a house tour to a complete stranger. A real estate photographer was there too, snapping pictures of MY chandeliers, my artwork, my life. "The master suite overlooks the ocean," I heard her say, her voice carrying that false confidence she'd always used when lying as a child. Perfect for someone looking to enjoy their retirement years. The stranger, some vulture of a buyer, was taking notes, nodding appreciatively. "Beautiful property," he said. "And your mother? She's ready to sell." That's when my daughter smiled. That cold, calculating smile that should have warned me years ago. She's ready to let go. Her time's almost over anyway. Her time's almost over. Her time's almost over. Do you hear that? Do you understand what she just said about the woman who carried her for 9 months, who walked the floors with her when she had colic, who worked 16-hour days to afford her piano lessons and riding camps and college tuition? My time was almost over. I stood there, hidden in the shadows of my own home, watching my daughter auction off my life like I was already in the ground. But instead of screaming, instead of collapsing, instead of giving her the dramatic scene she probably expected, I stepped into the light. My voice came out calm, too calm, like the eye of a hurricane. "And yours has just begun to end." The buyer awkwardly excused himself. The photographer packed up his equipment. My daughter's smile faded like ice melting in summer heat. And the silence that followed wasn't peace. It was the declaration of war. After they left, I closed that heavy oak door, the same door my husband had carried me through as a bride 35 years ago, and I walked into his study. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. His reading glasses still folded on his desk. His favorite pen still uncapped beside the legal pad where he'd been working on his memoirs. The music from the gala was still playing in my head, but it faded into the quiet of this room where he'd made all our important decisions. Where we'd planned our future. Where we'd dreamed about leaving something beautiful for our children. I ran my fingers over his photograph, that one from our 20th anniversary where we're standing in front of this house, his arms around me, both of us laughing at something our son had just said. We looked so happy, so secure. So foolishly trusting in the loyalty of our own blood. "You told me once, protect what we built," I whispered to his picture. "I failed you today, but not for long." The family portraits lined the walls like a timeline of betrayal. There she was at age 5, gap-toothed and innocent, sitting on my lap in this very chair. At 10, in her soccer uniform, holding a trophy I'd cheered her to. At 16, in her prom dress, the one I'd stayed up all night altering to fit her perfectly. At 22, in her graduation cap, the diploma I'd worked 3 jobs to pay for clutched in her hands. When did that little girl become this stranger? When did love turn into greed? When did respect become contempt? I sat down in my husband's chair and whispered the words that would become my battle cry. You tried to sell my house. You just sold your soul. The resolve that formed behind my trembling eyes wasn't born of anger alone, it was born of the deep, aching pain of a mother who'd just watched her child choose money over love, inheritance over integrity, real estate over relationships. Revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be dramatic. It would be silent, surgical, and absolutely devastating. 25 years ago, I stood in mud and concrete dust, wearing work boots and holding blueprints, watching them pour the foundation of what would become our family home. My husband was there, laughing as our son tried to write his name in the wet cement. Our daughter, barely walking, toddled around in a hard hat that was comically too big for her tiny head. One day, this will be theirs, my husband said, his arm around my waist as we watched the workers frame what would become our kitchen. And that was my first mistake, believing love would protect legacy. I remember every nail that went into those walls. I remember choosing every fixture, every tile, every doorknob. This wasn't just a house we were buying, this was a dream we were building, brick by brick, room by room, memory by memory. There were Christmas mornings with wrapping paper scattered across those floors. Birthday parties with streamers hanging from those ceilings. Homework sessions at that kitchen table. Piano recitals in that living room. First dates departing from that front porch. Graduations celebrated in that dining room. Those walls heard our laughter, absorbed our tears, witnessed our love. And then came the day we carried my husband out for the last time. The rain fell like heaven itself was weeping. Black veils and black cars and the black hole in my heart that I thought might swallow me whole. He left me the mansion in his will, every room, every memory, every dream we'd built together. But I didn't realize it came with enemies wearing my blood. She moved in 3 months after his funeral. To help Mom through this difficult time, she told everyone. Such a devoted daughter, they said. Such a caring child, looking after her grieving mother. But helping turned into taking over. Caring turned into controlling. Let's modernize a bit, she said, removing the family photos from the mantle. Some of these old things are so dated. Old things. Like the wedding portrait where her father and I promised to love each other forever. Like the baby pictures of her and her brother. Like the family vacation shots from all those summers we spent building memories instead of building bank accounts. She started rearranging the furniture. This layout is so impractical, Mom. Practical. As if our home was supposed to be a showroom instead of a sanctuary. The heirlooms disappeared into boxes. We'll put these in storage until we decide what to do with them. Decide what to do with them. As if my grandmother's china and my mother's jewelry were problems to be solved instead of treasures to be cherished. The artwork came down. This style is so old-fashioned. Old-fashioned. Like the landscape my husband painted during our honeymoon. Like the portrait of my parents that hung in our hallway for 30 years. She changed the staff schedules. They need more structure. Structure. As if Maria, who'd been our housekeeper for 15 years, suddenly didn't know how to clean. As if Joseph, who'd maintained our garden since we moved in, suddenly couldn't tell a rose from a weed. The dinner table became her throne. She sat at the head, my husband's place, while I was relegated to the side like a guest in my own home. She hosted dinner parties for her friends while I ate alone in the breakfast nook, listening to strangers laugh in my dining room. Mom doesn't feel up to company tonight, she'd tell them. As if I were an invalid. As if I were already gone. It wasn't just my home she was selling. It was me piece by piece, memory by memory, dignity by dignity. The night I discovered her plan, I couldn't sleep. Something was gnawing at me, some instinct that told me to get up, to look, to find out what that feeling in my stomach was warning me about. I walked down the hallway in my robe and slippers, past the portraits she'd removed, past the empty spaces where our memories used to hang. Her study, my husband's old office, had a light on underneath the door. I turned the handle quietly, expecting to find her reading or working on her laptop. Instead, I found evidence of the greatest betrayal a mother could imagine. Blueprints of my house spread across the desk. Legal letters with my name at the top. Bank drafts with numbers that made my heart stop. Power of attorney, awaiting signature. Psychological evaluation for mental competency. Property assessment, estimated value $3.2 million. And there, at the bottom of a legal document, was my signature. My signature. On papers I'd never seen before, agreeing to things I'd never agreed to. My own signature, forged by my own daughter. My hands shook as I photographed everything with my phone. Each picture was another nail in the coffin of my trust, another crack in the foundation of my love for her. I called David Morrison the next morning, my husband's old business partner who'd retired from law but still had his license. We'd been friends for decades. I trusted him like family, which was more than I could say for my actual family. Margaret, he said after I'd shown him the photos, she's trying to have you declared mentally incompetent. If she succeeds, she'll have complete control over your assets, your medical decisions, your entire life. Mentally incompetent. As if the woman who'd built a successful catering business from nothing, who'd managed our investments through 3 recessions, who'd raised 2 children and buried a husband while keeping her sanity intact was suddenly too addled to make her own decisions. What are my options? I asked. Well, David said, his voice taking on that careful legal tone, we could fight it in court. But that would be expensive, time-consuming, and emotionally devastating. Or what? Or we could let her think she's winning while we build our own case. A slow zoom on my face as the possibilities settled in my mind. Shock melted into fury, and fury crystallized into something far more dangerous, clarity. Then let's make her believe she's winning. Academy Award performances have been given for lesser roles than the one I played over the next 6 weeks. I became the confused, frail, declining mother she needed me to be to justify her actions. I started dropping things. Oh my, where did that glass go? I'd say, looking around confused as pieces of my grandmother's crystal scattered across the kitchen floor. I forgot names. Now, who are you again? I'd ask Maria, the woman who'd been part of our family for 15 years. The hurt in her eyes nearly broke my performance, but I couldn't risk telling her the truth. I repeated questions. What day is it? What day is it? I'm sorry, but what day is it? Until even I wanted to slap myself for the acting. I shuffled when I walked instead of striding. I squinted at books I could read perfectly well. I asked for help opening jars I could have opened with one hand. And my daughter? She ate it up like candy. She's really declining. I heard her telling someone on the phone. Yesterday, she asked me 3 times if she'd fed the cats. We don't have cats. We've never had cats. We did have cats. 2 of them. Whiskers and Midnight. They died 6 years ago, but I remembered them perfectly. Just like I remembered everything else. Meanwhile, David had recommended a private investigator who specialized in electronic surveillance. Hidden cameras went up behind picture frames and inside decorative vases. Microphones were placed in light fixtures and behind mirrors. Every room in my house became a recording studio, and my daughter was the unwitting star of her own downfall. The lawyer connected everything to a secure server that would preserve every conversation, every phone call, every moment of her betrayal. One evening, I heard her on the phone in what she thought was the privacy of her room. Once she signs the papers, everything's mine. She'll never know what hit her. I'll put her in one of those nice facilities, you know, the kind where they take good care of the confused elderly, and I'll finally be able to live my life. Nice facilities. Confused elderly. Live her life. As if I were already dead. As if my life was just an inconvenience preventing her from living hers. She forgot who taught her to think 3 steps ahead. She forgot who taught her chess when she was 7, who showed her that the best strategy isn't always the most obvious one, who trained her to consider consequences before actions. My confused mother act was perfect, but my revenge strategy was flawless. The notary office was small and cramped, the kind of place that specialized in quick paperwork and didn't ask too many questions. My daughter had driven me there under the pretense of updating some legal documents. Just some routine papers, Mom, she'd said in that patronizing tone she'd perfected. Nothing complicated. You just need to sign your name. The fake notary, and I knew he was fake because David had done his research, had papers spread across the desk. Power of attorney documents. Property transfer agreements. Documents that would sign my life away to my daughter. I played my part perfectly. Wait. I don't remember agreeing to this. What are these papers? Why are we here? My daughter's patience was wearing thin. Just sign, Mom. It's for your own good. You can't manage all this by yourself anymore. For my own good. As if stealing my house was an act of kindness. As if betraying my trust was a favor she was doing me. I picked up the pen with shaking hands, and the shaking wasn't entirely an act. Not because I was scared, but because I was so angry I could barely contain it. Then I stopped, looked up, let my voice drop to that calm, deadly tone that she should have recognized from her childhood, from all those times she'd tested my limits and found them. No, darling. It's for yours. I put the pen down and walked out of that office, leaving my daughter and her accomplice scrambling to explain what had just happened. Outside, David was waiting in his car, just as we'd planned. Did we get it all? He asked. I touched the recording brooch I was wearing, another little device my private investigator had provided. Every word, I replied. The trap was set. The law was now on my side. And my daughter had just confessed to attempted fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit theft. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and absolutely damning. I planned the dinner party like I used to plan my husband's business dinners, every detail perfect, every element calculated for maximum impact. I invited my daughter, of course. Just a quiet family dinner, I told her. I've been feeling so confused lately, and I think some family time would help. I also invited the fake buyer who'd been touring my house. I've been reconsidering your offer, I lied smoothly. Perhaps we should discuss terms. David came as my legal counsel, though I introduced him as an old family friend. And I hired a new caterer. Not because I couldn't cook the meal myself, but because I wanted my hands free for what was coming. The dining room looked perfect. My grandmother's china gleamed under the chandelier. The silver sparkled. Fresh flowers from the garden perfumed the air. Everything was elegant, proper, civilized. Just like a wake. We made small talk through the appetizer course. My daughter was practically glowing with anticipation, probably thinking this dinner was leading up to my surrender. The buyer was calculating square footage and resale values. David was quietly taking notes. Midway through the main course, I reached for a small remote control I'd hidden beside my napkin. I hope you don't mind, I said pleasantly, but I thought we might watch some family videos tonight. I've been feeling so nostalgic lately. The television screen descended from its hidden compartment in the ceiling, a feature my husband had installed for movie nights that had instead become the theater for my daughter's destruction. But instead of family videos, the screen filled with hidden camera footage from my own home. My daughter's voice echoed through the dining room. Once she signs the papers, everything's mine. She'll never know what hit her. The room froze. Forks stopped midway to mouths. Wine glasses hung suspended in air. Even the candle flames seemed to still. More footage played. Phone conversations about my declining mental state. Discussions about managing the old woman's assets. Plans to put her somewhere safe while my house was sold and my money was spent. My daughter's face went white, then red, then white again. "Mom, I can explain." "No need," I said, my voice carrying the full weight of 32 years of motherhood, love, disappointment, and betrayal. "I already did," to the district attorney. David pulled out his legal documents. Proof of the forged signatures. Evidence of the attempted fraud. Documentation of elder abuse and exploitation. The fake buyer was already reaching for his coat. The fake notary would be arrested within the hour. And my daughter? My daughter was about to learn that actions have consequences. The knock at the door came right on schedule. 2 police officers, polite but firm, with a warrant for her arrest. I watched them put handcuffs on the hands I'd taught to tie shoes. I heard them read rights to the mouth I'd fed with my own spoon. I saw them walk her out the door I'd carried her through as a baby. And I felt nothing but emptiness where my love for her used to live. She thought she was selling a mansion. What she really sold was her dignity, her integrity, her relationship with the mother who would have given her anything she'd asked for honestly. The next morning, golden sunrise streamed through the windows of my bedroom, the master suite that overlooks the ocean, the one my daughter had been so eager to sell to strangers. I sat by the window with my tea, watching the waves crash against the rocks below, thinking about the nature of justice and the price of betrayal. People say time heals everything. They're wrong. Some wounds need justice, not patience. Some hurts require accountability, not forgiveness. Some betrayals demand consequences, not understanding. I don't regret what I did. I regret that it had to be done. I regret that the little girl who used to bring me dandelions she'd picked from the yard grew up to be a woman who tried to steal the roof over my head. I regret that the child who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms became the storm I had to weather. But I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret defending what my husband and I built together. I don't regret refusing to be a victim in my own home. The hallway where she once stood is empty now. The room where she plotted against me is quiet. The future she tried to steal is still mine to live. You can take my blood, but you can't take my backbone. You can share my DNA, but you can't steal my dignity. You can be born from my body, but you can't break my spirit. I've learned that the deepest betrayals come from the closest relationships. That the people who can hurt you the most are the ones you love the most. That trust, once broken, doesn't heal. It gets replaced by wisdom. My daughter is in jail now, awaiting trial for elder fraud and attempted theft. Her bail was set at $200,000. Money I could pay easily, but never will. She made her choice when she decided my love wasn't enough, when she chose greed over gratitude, when she valued my death more than my life. The house is quiet now, but it's not empty. It's filled with the memories of the family we used to be, before money became more important than love, before inheritance became more valuable than integrity. I still set 2 places at the breakfast table sometimes, out of habit. But I don't set a place for her anymore. That daughter, the one who would have inherited everything with patience and love, doesn't exist. She was replaced by a stranger who saw me as an obstacle instead of a mother. My son calls every day from Seattle, worried about me, angry at his sister, guilty that he wasn't here to protect me. I should have known, he says. I should have seen the signs. But how could he? How could any of us? Betrayal is like carbon monoxide, invisible, odorless, deadly, and completely undetectable until it's too late. The other children at the charity galas look at me with pity now. The poor woman whose daughter tried to steal her house, they whisper. But I don't feel like a victim. I feel like a survivor. I feel like a warrior who fought for her home and won. The mansion stands as strong as ever, its foundation unshaken by the greed that tried to destroy it. The rooms still echo with laughter. Not the predatory laughter of someone plotting theft, but the genuine laughter of friends who come to visit, of neighbors who stop by for tea, of the life I'm still living despite my daughter's belief that my time was almost over. My time isn't over. It's just beginning again. This house will stand long after I'm gone. But it won't go to her. It will go to charities that help families in need, to organizations that support abandoned elderly, to causes that matter more than bloodlines. She wanted my house so desperately that she destroyed our family to get it. Now she'll never have it, and neither will her children if she ever has any. The legacy she tried to steal early is lost to her forever. That's what real consequences look like. That's what justice tastes like. That's what happens when you try to bury someone who refuses to die. Some people are born fighters. Some people learn to fight when they have to. And some people discover they're warriors only when someone they love declares war on them. I discovered I was a warrior at 73 years old, when my own daughter taught me that blood can be thicker than water, but greed is thicker than blood. She gambled everything on my weakness and lost everything to my strength. And I would do it all again. If this story touched your heart, hit like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from, because sometimes revenge doesn't shout. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes the most powerful response to betrayal is simply refusing to be destroyed by it. The marble floors that once carried her laughter now carry my footsteps alone. But I'm still walking. I'm still breathing. I'm still here. And that, my friends, is the greatest victory of all.